I'm Dr. Patricia Ranald, the convener of the Australian Fair Trade and Investment Network. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, is a legally binding trade agreement between Australia, the US and 10 other Pacific Rim countries. But it's not an equal partnership, and it's not mainly about trading goods. In fact, because Australia already has free trade agreements with 9 of the 12 countries, economic studies show that there are little or no trade benefits for Australia from the TPP. President Obama said in his State of the Union speech in January 2016 that the TPP is about the US writing the rules for the region. But what benefits US corporate interests is not necessarily in the interests of the majority even in the US, let alone in other countries. Most TPP chapters are in fact about giving greater monopoly rights to global corporations that already have enormous market power. This includes stronger monopoly rights for pharmaceutical companies to delay the availability of cheaper forms of medicines, and stronger copyright monopolies for Hollywood and IT companies on the internet without enforceable protection for consumers. The TPP also gives foreign investors from TPP countries the right to bypass our national legal system and sue our governments for millions or even billions of dollars in unfair international tribunals if they can argue that a change in government law or policy has harmed their investment. Australian High Court Chief Justice French has said that these international tribunals are not proper court systems because they have no independent judiciary, no precedents and no appeals. The threat of being sued can have a freezing effect on future government regulation, effectively tying the hands of government in responding to community interests or new development. This is a threat to democratic sovereignty. Well, how could the TPP affect public education? Let's take the example of TAFE. State governments have contracted out the provision of TAFE services to private providers, resulting in fraudulent courses which are worthless to students and misuse of government funding. Let's say a future government decided to introduce much stricter regulation of private providers or even return TAFE services to the public sector. A company from the US or another TPP country could argue that the stricter regulation or loss of contract had harmed their investment and could threaten to sue, or actually sue, the government for millions or even billions of dollars, depending on the losses they claimed. So what can we do about it? There's still time to stop the TPP. Governments have signed the agreement, but each government still has to pass legislation to implement it before it can come into force. This will be a rocky road in many countries, including the US. The TPP is so unpopular in the US that both Democratic and Republican presidential candidates have come out against it, and Congress will not vote on it until after the November presidential elections. In Australia, there will be a parliamentary inquiry process between February and June, before Parliament votes on the implementing legislation. Remember, the government does not have a majority in the Senate. We need to convince the ALP, Greens and Independent senators to say no to the TPP implementing legislation. You can send a message now to your local MPs and senators through our website, aftinet.org.au, and watch for other actions you can take in the coming months.